Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the COVID-19 crisis unfolding in rural Jharkhand and how some doctors there are unprepared and even reluctant to treat those infected by the virus. We also talk about the post-poll violence taking place in West Bengal that has killed 14 people so far. But first, we talk about India's oxygen crisis. At a time when India is experiencing a massive second wave of COVID-19 infections, patients across several parts of India are struggling to get their hands on medical oxygen, which can be life-saving for those suffering with severe symptoms. There are several hospitals in the country right now that are facing an acute shortage of oxygen, and many people have even died because of this shortage. We have talked about this problem in the past as well, and the problem is not that India doesn't produce enough oxygen. The problem is that of transporting the oxygen from one place to the other, and in many cases, that of a shortage of oxygen cylinders. And this problem seems to have now become worse for the past few days because of the lack of coordination between government departments. This happened after the government banned the use of industrial oxygen. Various industries require oxygen, but COVID has been given priority by the government, so they are being denied the oxygen they need for production. But now an Indian Express report by investigative journalist Ritu Sareen has found out that because of this, even the country's largest oxygen cylinder manufacturers are being denied oxygen. And they need this oxygen to produce cylinders that are a necessity right now. In this segment, Ritu Sareen joins us to talk about her report. Ritu ma'am, the government had recently put a ban on the industrial use of oxygen. Could you first talk about exactly what was the reasoning behind that?
So when the oxygen crisis hit and the second wave was there before us in great severity, the government, in its wisdom, decided to divert all the oxygen from industrial plants for medical use. And that was done all over the country. And the story I have put out today is one of the resultant fallouts of that, which shows a clear lack of coordination between departments.
Right, and your report actually mentions that this ban actually had an unintended consequence, and which you rightly mentioned has in some ways worsened the situation. So could you tell us what your report reveals?
So the ban was on all industrial plants was imposed on the 24th. And when it also included plants that manufacture oxygen cylinders, so the Association of Oxygen Association red flagged it to the government. And I know at several high-level meetings also. And at that stage or at a later stage, which is close to now, even to the PMO, so the usual representations and at meetings, this was red flag, that I know for sure. And after that, as a result of that, the Home Ministry issued instructions, which a copy of which I have, that these cylinder manufacturers should be exempted from the ban. And they should be given liquid oxygen to continue their manufacturing processes. So that was on the 27th of last month. And we are now on the 5th of May. So more than a week has lapsed, and it has been 3-4 days before that. So for 10 days, all the major oxygen cylinder manufacturing plants and units have been shut down. The point is, the majority of them are located in a special economic zone in Gujarat. I was given to understand by the manufacturers and by the association that they account for almost 80 to 90% of the cylinder manufacturing capacity of the country. So all the big guys are there. And the fault, of course, lies with authorities in the state government that they have yet, as we speak, not reverted the ban and allowed the minuscule amount of oxygen that is needed by these plants.
And you actually spoke to some of these manufacturers. What kind of things did they have to say?
Actually, they said almost identical things. And they are two big guys. And their capacities are quite impressive. Like one of them, Kento, has 2 plants in the country. They have 2 plants in Dubai. So they're pretty much the market leaders. And there were 2 other people I spoke to. I spoke to a smaller manufacturer who I have not put in the story called Euro India Cylinder Limited, also located in the same industrial hub. And they just said that we have the same problem. And we have been handicapped by the instructions of the center not percolating down to the state, and state authorities like the Food and Drug Association, the FDA, not giving us permission and not giving us the oxygen. What is interesting is the figures. The figures are there in my story that at this point, because cases in Gujarat are also quite high, the state is consuming about between 1,200 to 1,500 metric tons of oxygen a day. And all these plants put together in a combined manner, all they need is 11 metric tons a day. So it's a very small amount of liquid oxygen that they need, but they are being denied that and their production is shut.
And what implications does this have at a time like this? And what does it mean when the government is making such decisions that are having these kind of consequences?
That's why we began the story by saying the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And it's understandable that at a time like this, when there is a huge oxygen crisis and we are seeing what is happening in the streets and outside hospitals of the capital, that this is the time for the government to issue instructions to scale up production of oxygen cylinders, because it has become such a critical component. If oxygen is coming in tankers now, and if people are waiting for with the cylinders and they are waiting to give oxygen to their patients, what we need is a scaled up production of cylinders. And here just the opposite has happened, that since the last 10 days, there has been no production in the country. The manufacturers themselves are ready to scale up production. And what is more worrisome and what is more important is that they have got orders, from their point of view, lucrative orders, but from the medical emergency point of view, orders that are being held up and being cancelled. So some of them told me, for instance, they have orders from the DRDO, from the Aerospace Department. They have huge pending orders from the Health Ministry themselves, from the Ministry of Home Affairs. So the Health Ministry, for instance, is telephoning these very suppliers, telling them to supply thousands of cylinders. And it is the Home Ministry's instructions which are not being followed by the state.
So what is your takeaway from this entire thing, and what do officials involved have to say about this?
It's just that the situation and the current plight of the cylinder manufacturers shows that there is a lack of coordination between departments in the government. And when we spoke to representatives of the state government yesterday, they didn't still seem to think it's a very important issue. And they again told us that our priority is medical oxygen supplies. But they don't seem to understand that it is these very cylinder manufacturers that have got hundreds of hospitals and other clients in the private sector and in the government and state sector to supply cylinders too. So the sooner this problem is resolved, the better it will be.
And next we talk about Jharkhand. The state, like rest of India, has been facing the brunt of the second wave of COVID-19, which is much worse than the first wave. This can be seen from the number of deaths that the state has been reporting. Last year, it saw 1,113 deaths due to the virus. And now, only within the last 35 days, this number has been surpassed. Every day, the state witnesses close to 4,000 to 5,000 new positive cases and over 100 deaths. Major districts like Ranchi, Jamshedpur and Dhanbad are overloaded with cases, and patients are struggling to find ICU beds and oxygen cylinders. But the problem now is that the virus, unlike last year, is reaching the rural areas. And one of the reasons this is happening is because a lot of migrant workers from cities are once again returning to their hometowns in the fear that there might be a lockdown. But unlike last time, they aren't being tested or being isolated. Abhishek Angad, who reports on Jharkhand for the Indian Express, tells us about this problem.
So unlike last year, where the government had taken proper measures like quarantining them or screening them or making them test themselves and asking them to stay in panchayat homes, or just they were not exposed to the whole village, or just they wouldn't go to their homes straightforward. So this time that's not happening. And recently in a meeting with the chief minister, various Jila Parishad members and Panchayat Mukhias also flagged this concern, saying that it's very serious because a lot of people are dying and we need to do something about people coming in. So migrants are also scared because of what happened last year. All over India was, of course, there was a lockdown and they had to go through a lot. So they are scared. They don't want to go through the same grind again, same trauma again. And so what they're doing is they're coming secretly or they're not making any noise. Let's come, and they just come home and assuming that some people are infected, and that's how more and more people are getting infected.
And because migrant workers are coming back secretly, it is becoming hard for villages to keep a track of who is actually entering from outside. But also, when they return via trains, there is no mechanism in place to screen them. Abhishek says that last year, platforms had circles drawn on them. People were screened one by one. They were given food packets. Transportation was arranged. And once they reached home, they would undergo COVID tests and a mandatory 14-day quarantine in panchayat facilities. But this time, none of this is happening. They're simply being asked to go.
And that's a little scary, as in, I think that's a recipe for disaster because they'll go back home and again, the infection will increase. So in rural areas right now, because 80% of Jharkhand population, assuming that from 2011, Jharkhand had 3.25 crore population. It's in the last 10 years, if it's increased to, let's say, even 4 crore. So assuming that 80% of the total entire population resides in rural areas. So now that's a biggest concern for the government. Government is trying to look into it, how effectively they can do it. But yes, the crisis is unfolding slowly. Also, recently we had West Bengal elections, and a lot of people from Jharkhand had gone to West Bengal as workers for a lot of political parties. That's one. Also, this is the season where in March and April they go to West Bengal for some work and they again come back, like in May and May end. So now that's again a big problem because a lot of people are coming back from there.
And West Bengal again is a state that is seeing a rapid rise in cases. Now, Jharkhand only yesterday has announced that they will start antigen testing for such people returning and that they will be required to isolate. But nothing has been done as yet. Meanwhile, the state's health infrastructure is being overburdened. In cities, Abhishek says that the problem is that there aren't enough doctors. Ideally, one doctor is supposed to see 6 patients. But right now, they're having to see 30, 5 times as much. But in rural areas, he says the problem is very different.
The problem there seems to be is infrastructure is there, doctors are there, but there is a lot of hesitancy in treating a COVID patient. So there was a death that had happened in Giridih, in one of the blocks, where a man had come to the hospital and his oxygen saturation level was deteriorating. So allegedly, what we're hearing is the man was there for more than half an hour, but actually the healthcare workers in the hospital, that was community health center, they were not prepared to tackle a COVID patient then and there. So they're trying to get hold of PPE kits, they're trying to get hold of a lot of things, and then a lot of time passed. At the time then when they took the oxygen cylinder to him, he died. So initially, of course, if you would have provided with urgent medical attention, his life would have been saved.
Now, this was one example where healthcare workers weren't prepared to handle a COVID-19 patient. But Abhishek shares another incident that was told to him. This involved a ruling party worker.
Ruling party worker, GMM, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha worker in one block. His mother was not well, and then he took her to a private nursing home. There was an oxygen cylinder. There was a doctor that she needed some constant monitoring. But what happened was, as soon as they found out that she was positive 15 days ago, 6-7 healthcare workers fled from the back door. So they did not come and treat her. Even when an antigen testing was done then and there, and she came out to be negative, this is what has been told to me. Still, but there are not enough people to administer her injection or whatever that was required, and she expired in the morning. So what I see is in the rural areas, of course, there is no infrastructure, but there is also a lot of hesitancy among the people to treat the public. Also, a lot of deaths are happening that we still don't know, and they're all COVID suspected deaths, which are not coming in the record. So yes. So this is a scenario what we're getting to hear on phone as I'm calling different panchayats, different block promotes, different Zilla Parishad members.
And apart from healthcare workers, people themselves are scared. Abhishek says that he was told of a case where a family refused to cremate someone within the family who had died of COVID-19.
There is an example where their own family members that did not want to cremate their family members, someone who died. So someone else had to go. So there's also examples where once somebody is brought home after the death, so there's nobody to take that body, so they have to ferry them on a cart till the cremation ground. So there are these lot of things that are coming in from rural areas. So this is just unfolding right now, of course. And I think there are a lot of people still to accept the fact that there's no other option than to mask and go and meet people. But I think this is the thing that's going on as of now. And the crisis is still unfolding. We still don't know what's going to happen.
And this fear and hesitancy is there regarding the COVID-19 vaccination as well. And it can be seen from the declining numbers. Abhishek says that when it comes to the first dose, 91% healthcare workers have been vaccinated. But now this percentage has drastically fallen for the second dose.
This vaccination drive was top down. A lot of officials were very aggressive on you have to take vaccine because it's important and will save your life. So what has happened is that suddenly the second surge has hit us, and the messaging of top down has little bit dropped. So what has happened is that when you see the data of second dose of healthcare and frontline workers, so that has also decreased. So when first dose the healthcare workers were 91%, second dose healthcare workers has only 74%. So is the frontline workers.
Plus, he says there is also vaccine hesitancy among the general people, which has been increased by the fact that at least 5 people died in the state this year, a few days after receiving the vaccine. Now, to be clear, we don't know whether they died because of the vaccine or not, because even though their postmortem was done, the results have not been made public.
So this has also created a sense of fear in them. So there's a lot of hesitancy brought up by a lot of people. They are not willing to get vaccinated. So vaccination, that's one. So and then the central government has from May 1 started 18 plus to 45, 44. So what has happened is that till now that's not started because the central government, of course, told the officials that one cannot be vaccinated with the existing stocks for 18 plus. So the existing stock had to be used for only healthcare frontline or 45 plus beneficiaries. So now the state government had also ordered the fresh stocks. Now that is scheduled to receive any day, today, tomorrow, day after. And then they will begin with 18 to 44 vaccination. That is around 5 to 6 lakh doses that they will receive in the first tranche.
And in the end, we talk about the post-poll violence in West Bengal. After the state election results were announced on Sunday, in which the TMC won by a landslide, incidents of violence have been taking place across various districts between the workers of the TMC and the BJP. So far, at least 14 people have been killed in the state. In this segment, we speak to Shantanu Chaudhary, who reports on West Bengal for the paper, about the allegations that both the parties are making.
Well, the BJP, which has become the principal opposition party now, alleged that several of its workers were killed by the TMC goons in many districts. They said that the mother of a BJP worker was killed because when she tried to stop TMC goons from beating her son. This incident took place in Jagaddal. Then there is another incident which happened in Ranaghat in Nadia district where one of its party workers, Uttam Ghosh, was killed. Then in Kolkata, in Beleghata area, Abhijit Sarkar, who the BJP claims that their party worker was mercilessly beaten up, and rather the party is claiming he was lynched. So these are some of the incidents that has taken place post the election results, where the BJP is saying that the TMC is using power to show that they believe in the culture of violence, and that's what the opposition has been subjected to after their poll debacle. So these are some of the reports that have come in. And at the same time, there are reports of violence against TMC workers as well. The 3 TMC workers have been killed in East Burdwan district, as the TMC has claimed. and the police are investigating the matter. And there is also another incident of on Indian Secular Front, which is a newly formed party, and one of their members have been killed in Degonga area of North Chobbish Pargana district. So these are some of the incidents of violence which have come in where the workers have been killed.
And he says that besides this, there have also been several incidents where the houses of the BJP party workers were vandalized and ransacked.
These have come from across the state, from the districts of Kuch Bihar in North Bengal, from Birbhum, from North Chobbish Parganas, from South Chobbish Parganas, from Nandigram, where Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee was contesting this election and lost to BJP leader Shubhendu Adhikari. We also heard that Adhikari's convoy also came under the attack following the election results. So these are some of the reports that have come in from across the state.
The other problem that is happening in the middle of all this, and which is worsening the problem, is fake news. Shantanu says that unverified images and videos are being shared on social media by the IT cells of political parties.
We have seen that the BJP media group had shared that 2 of its workers were gang raped in Birbhum's Nanur area. The police have come, the SP, the Election Commission appointed SP of the Birbhum district has clearly said that these are totally fake news and there is no truth in that, and they are now trying to find out who had spread these rumors to create tension in the area. And there are also some reports that some people in the social media are sharing fake news or the videos of incidents which had taken place in Odisha and passing them as something that happened in West Bengal. The CPM has claimed that no party office was torched by TMC goons in Uttar Dinajpur. So, but the BJP had claimed that one of the party offices of the CPM was vandalized. And in Durgapur also, the party claimed that several party offices were vandalized. And some of the pictures which were doing the rounds where policeman was getting beaten up. But that incident had happened in Odisha. So there is clearly a trend to share the fake news, or we can say that doctored videos, and pass them as something that happened in West Bengal to create communal tension, because all these incidents of violence were targeted towards the Hindu. That's what the BJP and some of the people in the social media are saying. Even the party leaders like Swapan Das Gupta is also sharing tweets and saying that incidents are taking place without verifying them, without cross-checking them. So this also sends a very wrong message to the people that something is definitely wrong in West Bengal. But the truth is that not all the reports that are coming from the BJP or elsewhere is not true.
He says that now the police are trying to find the source of such fake news. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has now made an appeal to the people to maintain peace and not to resort to violence as a means to take revenge.
She also said that she will take strong action against those who are indulging in violence, and she also mentioned that for the last 3 months, the law and order situation was under the Election Commission's control, and the Election Commission also changed officers in several districts. So she said that from today onwards, she will take law and order into a very serious consideration, and she will work to restore peace in the state.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also taken cognizance of the issue and spoke to West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar and expressed his displeasure. Now, one thing to note is that West Bengal has almost always seen post-poll violence. In fact, violence is common even before and during the elections. But Shantanu says that what is different this time is that people are trying to give it a communal color.
Every time there is an incident of violence, say Hindus are being attacked, Hindus are being chased by a marauding mob, things are being said and written. So this creates more trouble because this sends a very wrong message to the people. And if such things are being said, then it is possible that more incidents of violence can follow up. So this is the difference that we are seeing, that the post-poll violence is also taking the shape of a communal color. So this is something new in Bengal that we can say.
Shantanu says that taking care of this situation will be a challenge for Mamata Banerjee. So far, she has said that COVID-19 will be her first priority, and taking care of this violence will be the second most important thing for her.
I think steps will be taken in the next few days. We are expecting a change of police officers in several districts where the incidents have taken place. more focus will be laid on the areas where such incidents of violence have come up. So I think this is going to be a big challenge for her, because the opposition, on the other hand, is pressurizing her to act on them. We are seeing the BJP today held protests, dharnas in various places to mount pressure on her. And we are also seeing that Assam Chief Minister Hemanta Biswa Sarma is also tweeting that several hundreds of BJP workers have crossed border to Assam to escape the atrocities of the TMC goons. But we are yet to verify that news, because what he has said, we haven't seen any report from the state government or the police, any confirmation on this. So we have to wait and see what are the actions that have been taken by the Mamata Banerjee government.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.